Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. Everybody's missing this week, including me. Yes, I was unavailable for what I think might be the first football podcast ever, which is weird. And I believe that Matt is also not on this one, so it's just the head honcho and the other head honcho. I imagine there is football. That's the name of the game, so I imagine there is football. I imagine covering the England games from last week and then jumping straight back into more local football, local fixtures. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Obviously the big one, the one that helps out the most, the biggest one you can do is share the podcast around. If you've got a football fan in your life, send this podcast their way. They will love it. Right, here we go. This is CookieCast, football podcast.
Well, welcome along, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is a very strange podcast for you this week. For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll already know why it looks a little different to normal, and that is because it's the football podcast brought to you by us here at the CookieCast Podcast Network. However, whereas there'd normally be 4 faces staring back at you, there's not even 3 faces staring back at you this week. It's just 2. We are sadly without Mr. Moore once again, and unable to join us this week is the head honcho himself, the leader of the CookieCast Podcast Network. Mr. Andrew Cook himself is not available to join us, so it's just myself and Mr. Stuart Woodmansey flying dually. Is that a word?
I was waiting for you to say solo just so I could be like, it's like yeah.
I don't think
it's just. I mean, if Andy wants to dub in just the 2 of us in the back into this whilst we're,
I can't even imagine. I think it's just the classic sort of we're co-pilots. I believe the phrase would go. So, yes, just myself and Stu for you this week, but we'll try and keep the entertainment up just as high as it always is right here on the football podcast. Now, again, a slightly strange week in the fact that it was the international break, so we've only got England games to bring you, plus a little tinge of some sort of outside news, as it were. But we'll get to that later on. So, first things first, how much of the 2 England games did you actually see?
Live, you can count on no fingers the amount of minutes I actually watched. I have seen the goals from the Albania game. I haven't seen the Latvia goals, so that's as far as I got.
So, I watched about half of the Albania game on Friday, and then I managed to get home for about the last 20-25 minutes of the Latvia game on Monday as I was playing football myself. So, yeah, we'll have to try and cobble together this from the best of our recollection. So I have rewatched the goals, so I can at least talk through the goals. So England versus Albania was the first game for the new head coach Thomas Tuchel, and he went into it. In fact, I will bring up the team, as that's probably a good place to start. Do you reckon it'd be comfortable to say that it was some interesting picks for his starting players?
Well, considering how Route 1 the squad was overall, it didn't kind of go exactly as I'd expected it to when the team took the field, but yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he gave debuts to left back Miles Lewis-Skelly of Arsenal, Dan Burn of that team who play in black and white stripes up in the northeast. And whilst I don't think it's his first start, it was a rare start, shall we say, for Curtis Jones of Liverpool. Probably a rare start for Conser as well at the back. So of the back four, you'd only really say that Kyle Walker was a mainstay of the back four. So the rest are all seasoned pros who played several times for England. So a couple of interesting decisions, shall we say, but they went into it obviously knowing exactly what they needed to do, and after 20 minutes they managed to take the lead, and it was one of the debutants who actually managed to score. Lewis Skelly himself was up on the overlap from the left back spot. They'd been playing the ball around the outside of the centre circle, and the ball ended up at the feet of Jude Bellingham, and he played a lovely little through ball into the box, into the path of Lewis Skelly, who just sort of finished pretty much first time under the goalkeeper. I think he actually put it under through his legs, from what I can remember.
He did. It was first time side foot through the guy's legs, but just winding it back to the Jude Bellingham pass. I know that there's going to be the argument of it's the opposition you're playing, but you've still got to beat the team that are in front of you. That pass took out three men, basically three individual lines as well that perfectly weighted inside, and Skelly's first touch in the box was straight through the onrushing keeper's legs. So, questions from the defensive perspective will probably be asked why the left back was up there in the first place. But still, again, you got to beat the team that was in front of you, and the kid did well on his debut from what I've seen. So
he did indeed. So they went in 1-0 at half time. No changes at the half, so the same team came out for the start of the second half. And another sort of cagey affair, really. And it stayed 1-0 until the 77th minute, but on the 74th minute, 3 changes were made. Anthony Gordon came on for Marcus Rashford, Jared Bowen came on for Phil Foden, and Morgan Rogers came on for Curtis Jones. And I don't know if it was the change that sort of sparked something in the England team, but they actually got a second on the 77th minute. The ball had fallen to Declan Rice out on the edge of the box, and he almost sort of spotted that Kane was peeling off towards the back post, and sort of clipped the ball into him. He managed to sort of. I don't know if he technically wrong-footed the defender, or if he just kind of like gave him a little shove in the opposite direction.
It looks an awful lot like there could have been potentially a sniper in the crowd, because the defender just seemed to do his own thing. Like, I mean, he didn't necessarily go down flat, but he disappeared off somewhere. Like like wherever he thought the ball was, that's not where the ball was.
Yeah,
for sure.
Wasn't the one of the more strange decisions, shall we say, from a defensive perspective.
But I think we can't let the podcast roll on without mentioning, the then touch that the captain stat padder took to bring the ball down to create the space, and then nestle the ball into the bottom right hand side of the net. Keeper really couldn't do anything about it.
Good finish from a striker's perspective, because I always think when they find the side netting it probably makes them feel a little bit better about themselves, because they've had to pick that out as opposed to just like blasting it towards the goal.
I also enjoyed the fact that the small piece of commentary I heard. I think England were only 1-0 up at the time, and Lee Dixon said, "Let's face it, there's no way in a million years that England won't qualify from this group." Whilst I agree in many terms, isn't it like the unwritten rule not to actually say those words out loud, particularly if you're in attendance at the game?
Correct. So yes, 2-0 to England. A couple more subs 82nd minute, Declan Rice was taken off for everyone's favourite Jordan Henderson. Oh dear. And on the 90th minute, Reece James was given a run out in place of Miles Lewis Skelly. We'll come to Reece James in the next game. But yes, the game finished 2-0 to England. You'll be surprised to hear we all got points, as we all had varying degrees of England win. Stuart gone 3-0 with Kane, Bellingham and Gordon to score, so just gets the 2 points there. Myself and Mr. Cook had both gone for 2-0 wins. And we both had Kane as our goal scorer. I had Rashford as my other goal scorer. Andy had Gibbs White, who sadly it was unceremoniously dropped from the matchday squad prior to the game, so that was never going to happen for Mr. Cook, sadly. So, Stu 2 points from that first game. Myself and Andy both got 3 points from that first game. So, first game done and dusted. First 3 points on the board for England in their World Cup qualifier. And the second game saw England take on Latvia on Monday night. Now, again, I'll just have a look at the lineup. A couple of changes were made. I was going to say it was an entirely different back four, but it absolutely was not. It was changing the right back slot and one of the centre halves. So Reece James came in for Kyle Walker, and Mark Gay came in for Dan Burn. A little bit of a switch around in the midfield. Jude Bellingham dropped back in to the position that Curtis Jones had taken, or certainly like that. That's what it seems like from what Sky Sports were reporting. Jared Bowen took Phil Foden's place on the right-hand side, and Morgan Rogers was placed in behind Harry Kane in the position that Bellingham would have departed to sort of drop back into the holding position alongside Declan Rice. I mean, I'm saying that. You'd like to think that England wouldn't have to play with 2 holding midfielders against a team ranked, 100 and something in the world. But here we are. Slow start. I think it was probably easy to say on this one. It took them until the 38th minute to get off the mark in this one. And what a finish it was. A direct free kick, 25 yards out, smashed straight into the top corner by Reece James. I've only seen it back a couple of times, but it looked as if it was pretty much perfectly flighted straight into that top right-hand corner. Didn't really give the keeper much of a chance. Again, that's how it stayed until half-time. Again, no changes at half-time. But the first change was made on the 61st minute when Jared Bowen was taken off. Eberechi Eze came onto the pitch. And again, a substitution seemed to have an effect on the game. As 7 minutes later, England were 2-0 up. Harry Kane, once again, getting his customary goal in an England shirt. I believe it was his 70th goal, the one against Albania. I was going to say Andorra, but that's the one thing. And this was his 71st strike against Latvia. Again, the assist came from Declan Rice. He was making a surging run into the box when the ball made its way to him. And he just squared the ball across for Kane to tap in pretty much unmarked the back post. Couldn't really miss. And then times. Oh, Phil Foden actually came on slightly before that. Literally a minute to go. He came on for Jude Bellingham on the 67th minute. Missed that. Then the game was put beyond any doubt on the 76th minute when Eberechi Eze got his first for England. The ball seemed to be played out to him on the left-hand side, just outside the box. He ran at the defender just to try and get him a bit tied up. Jinked sort of like back and forth, got it onto his right hand side, took the shot, took a couple of deflections and went past the keeper. No real sort of blame on the keeper for that one. Just one of those ones that if you fire it into the box, chances are it's going to take a flick off somebody and go past the keeper. A couple more substitutions. Curtis Jones came on for Rashford. Henderson again came on for Declan Rice. Not entirely sure why. Lewis Skelly was taken off on the 79th minute as well for Kyle Walker. And the game petered out to a 3-0 win. 2 games, 5 goals scored, none conceded. 2 fairly straightforward games. England 6 points on the board. As for points on the board for the podcast, Stuart had gone for a 4-0 win with goals for Rashford, Rogers and 2 for Harry Kane. So gets himself a bonus point for goal scorer there, so 2 points for Stu. I went for a 5-0 win. Goals for Gordon, Bellingham, Bowen, Rogers, and Eze. So I also get a bonus point. Mr. Cook, he's done it again, ladies and gentlemen. He went for a 3-0 England win. No goal for Rashford, but he did have 2 for Kane. So he also gets himself a bonus point, which means myself and Stu 2 points from that particular game. Andy gets another 3. And that 3 points for Andy is enough to win him the week. Stu 4 points from the 2 games. Myself 5 from the 2 games. Andy,
I'm not having it. This happens every time someone's not on the podcast and they've submitted the thing. And it's normally when it's 4 down to 3, but it even works when it's 3 down to 2. How is this a thing?
It's just not on. Not on. It's not on, I tell you.
Sorry, what I meant was, well done, Andy. Well done.
Very, very, very diplomatic. Very diplomatic. So that's the England games done and dusted. We don't have to worry about them for the rest of the season. There'll be games played once the season's come to its conclusion. For the rest of the time, between now and the end of the season, it's just straightforward Hull, Borough, Nottingham Forest games from here on out. So, week 31 brings with it 4 games, a game apiece for my team and Stu's team, and then 2 games for Matt's team at Nottingham Forest. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got any predictions from Matt or Andy, so this week's predictions will be minimal at best. So, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Woodmansey, and at this point we can either give our predictions and we can end on the activity that you've done within the last couple of days, or would you like to go through that now before we go on to the predictions?
Well, you've teed up the predictions, so we'll do the predictions.
Let's do the predictions. Lovely. The first game of week 31 takes place on Saturday and is the first of 2 live televisual feasts. Hull City versus Luton Town. Very much a relegation 6-pointer, as it were. But if you don't say that, obviously I'm being shushed by my co-host there. Would I be remiss in saying that you'll be in attendance?
Oh, absolutely. Plans have been amended because this was a 3 o'clock kickoff that got moved for that button on Sky that nobody actually uses. So yeah, we will be there. The squad will be back in full, and be quite nice for it to at least be a daytime Saturday game, as every home game for the last month has been a midweek night fixture. So yeah. Although having said that, we have won the last 2 home games. So I mean, for my money, move them all to a midweek night fixture if that's what it takes.
So play them all at night. Play them all in the away kit.
Oh no, we didn't play in the away kit. We played in the home kit at home.
No, but this was one of his things, wasn't he? Old Illichali, didn't he trial that for a time being?
Last season, yeah. So probably around this time last year, when it was coming towards Easter and they had a bit of a wobble. Yeah, they were finding better results away from home, so they played a home game in the away kit, and it worked.
Well, there you go. Don't mess with him. He knows what he's talking about. So, Hull versus Luton. Like I said, both teams find themselves in the bottom 6 or 7. So, vitally important for both teams, this result. Obviously, it's Mr. Woodmansey's team. He will give his prediction last. There's only 2 of us. It's not really last, it's second or first. So, I'll jump in. I've gone for a 2-1 home victory on this one. Although I did look back over the form, and the 2 teams aren't actually in that bad form, it seems. So, obviously, Luton's last game before the international break was a 0-0 draw against the Borough, which they absolutely battered them. So, yes, I think that Hull will have too much for Luton, though. So I'm going for a 2-1 win. One for Kamara, Gelhardt, and Adebayo as my 3 goal scorers. How do you see it panning out?
Okay, so as Paul set it up, currently Luton are 23rd, so second bottom with 35 points. Currently Hull are 19th, 6 points ahead of that on 41. Hull haven't lost in 4 games, so form has improved somewhat. Home form will always make me a little nervous, however. I've gone for a 1-1 draw, and that's me being optimistic at this point. I've also gone for Gelhardt to score. I tell you what, Leeds apparently want £5 million for the lad. If we all had a whip round for a few home games, I'm pretty sure we could stump that up between us all. He works hard. He's a young lad, and he absolutely grafts for the team, which is like lovely to watch. The Luton goal scorer. Obviously, we're going to try and keep it to just the one. Hull need to keep it tight at the back, so I've gone for Asgard.
Good lord. Mr. Asgard was the culprit of a miss from 4 yards out, I believe, against the Borough, when he managed to span a one completely over the top from, as I said, 4 yards out. So, from Stu's perspective, I suppose, let's hope his aim's slightly better, or not, as the case may be.
It's more likely that he's had a sighter now. That's it for me.
Well, yeah, that is also true. So, that's the first game live on the Sky Sports Plus channel. Our second game, very much not live on Sky Sport or any channel until the highlights come out later in the day. Middlesbrough taking on Oxford United. Oxford United in a position where they could potentially be dragged into the relegation scrap, and they're not in great form. Obviously, this game earlier in the season finished 6-2 to the Borough with an Emmanuel Lattelas hat-trick. Sadly, he's no longer there, so we won't be scoring any hat-tricks in this game. Obviously, it's my team, so I will give my prediction second. Stu, what have you got on for Middlesbrough versus Oxford?
In the words of Mr. Cook himself, a nice, clean 1-0 home win. Conway to score.
Lovely jubbly. I'm in agreement. I have also gone for a home win, but I've gone for 3-0. I feel like they kind of need to have a bit of a statement win here if they come back off the international break. Should be fit and ready.
Oxford aren't as bad as people think they are, but they will shithouse their way through the game.
Well, this is the problem. So, obviously, you've played them recently and they went 1-0 up. And then, obviously, Hull came back and won the game 2-1. I don't know. I just feel that if they are going to put this sort of late charge together and try and get into the playoffs, they're going to have to put some markers down, and they're going to have to be that team that puts the run together from about this time till the end of the season. They pretty much have to win every game, I think, to sort of cement themselves in there. And I feel that if they are going to get in there, they're going to need to put teams that are down the lower end of the table to the sword and quite handsomely to give them that extra bit of a cushion with the goals as well. So I've gone 3-0, and I've gone for Azaz Conway, and for some reason I've gone for Iheanacho to score, even though he looks about 2 stone overweight and short on pace, shall we say. Third on the agenda is our second televised game of the day, and it's one of the FA Cup quarter-finals, where Brighton and Hove Albion will be taking on Nottingham Forest. Now, obviously, Mr. Mo's not here and hasn't sent any predictions in, so I can't give his prediction last. So I'll give my prediction, and then I'll come to Stu's prediction. I've gone for 2-1, sadly, to Brighton. I think I had a look at their form. They've won something like 6 on the spin or something like that, which looked insane. I didn't realise they were in that good form. So I've gone for Welbeck and Joao Pedro to score for Brighton. Hudson-Odoi to get the consolation for Forest. What do you reckon?
Well, I also looked at the form and agreed that they seem to be one of the form teams, particularly obviously in the Premier League at the moment. They're almost can it be coined doing a Forest at the moment without they're kind of flying under the radar a little bit. Obviously, Forest got noticed because they got up as high as second, I believe, at one point, and the fall away hasn't happened yet for Forest. Will it for Brighton on their run of form? Not sure. Plus, chuck that into the mix that it's a cup game. It's a bit like both of them will absolutely want to go through to the semis because it's like, you're getting near the business end now. But similarly, both of them would probably prefer top four finish in the Premier League as well if they could muster it.
Mm.
So it's one of them. I think that they'll go for it to an extent, but I worry that they'll end up sort of cancelling each other out a little bit. I've gone for over 90 minutes. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I've gone for Gibbs White for Forest because he'll be nice and fresh and raring to go and shout obscenities towards the England manager. And he's making his second appearance on the podcast, despite the fact that he's banned from the whole game. Joao Pedro to score for Brighton as well.
It was kind of in my thought process. I was like, well, I couldn't pick him for Hull because I don't think he's playing. So I'll just put him for this one instead.
Yeah, it's the last of his 3-game suspension this weekend.
Oh.
So normal service shall be resumed. 2-footed tackles flying everywhere as of next week.
Oh, he's left the deck, ladies and gentlemen. He's flying in full-blooded to that particular challenge. So our fourth and final game of the week is Nottingham Forest versus Manchester United. This isn't in the cup. This is back in the Premier League. Will be taking place midweek. I have my prediction in the book, but let's go straight back to Mr. Woodmansey for his prediction, and I'll give mine as the rounding out of the week, so to speak.
I hadn't actually realised this when I wrote my predictions down, but looking at them on my page right now, I went for a 1-1, a 1-0, a 1-1, a 1-0. So there's a bit of a pattern. A pattern has formed in mine this time around. Little bit of an issue for Forest as well that we haven't sort of mentioned was the fact that Chris Wood potentially picked up a bit of an injury on international duty for the giants of world football, New Zealand, which I'm sure the Forest fans will be delighted about. So I haven't picked him to score. Unfortunately, due to injury, unable to get my Wood out currently. So I have gone for Hudson-Odoi.
Bagged against Nottingham, bagged against Manchester City in their previous outing before the international break. He says, looking through them, just to make sure that was the last game that Forest played before the international break. Talking with yourselves, it was not. They beat Ipswich Town 4-2, and he definitely didn't score. So I'm talking shit. I've gone for a 2-2 draw in this one. United seem to have found a bit of form. So that can only mean they're obviously due a horrendous loss. I've gone for a 2-2 draw. I've gone for Gibbs White and in from the cold / in as a sort of cover for the injury. I've gone for a Wonyi to score for the Forest. And then I've gone for Fernandez, and now that he's also back on the goals, Hoyland to score for Man United. Don't know why, but even though I think he's a terrible, terrible player, I think he might potentially have found a little bit of sort of confidence and stuff. So he might be able to bag in back-to-back games.
I mean, you're not going to hear me say this overly often, but I actually feel sorry for that guy because he was brought in as a player to develop and then ended up with the entire weight of the Manchester United strike force on his shoulders. Seen as the rest of the team, upon his arrival, thought, nah, fuck that. But obviously then there was the whole thing with Ten Hag and all the tumultuous times they had, and then it hasn't really got better under Amorim yet. So if there's going to be a time for him to find some form, then he's been there since the manager's been there since November now. You'd like to think that based on the players he's got, having had a transfer window and settling time, he knows his best 11 by now. So if he's going to get a run in the team, he's got to take his chance, or he'll be another Jadon Sancho, won't he?
Yeah, not ideal shall we say the least. So, that's the end of the predictions, ladies and gentlemen. But, Mr. Woodmansey, you have some Hull-related news as such, I suppose.
I mean, there's definitely one element of news which will be a massive shock to anybody that's listening to this that's a Hull City fan, but we'll get to that. So it's been the international break. We've talked about it. That's what we've been here to do. Some of the Hull City players found themselves jetting away on international duty. Casey Palmer, for example, was with the Jamaica squad. Liam Miller would have been away with the Canada squad had Tim Walter not fucked him in the ACL from day dot. But yeah, some of the players stuck around. They didn't necessarily all go off home. And some of them even found themselves in a bowling alley with approximately 60 children on Tuesday evening of the current week. So luckily for my boys, as pass holders, they were picked out as junior members and invited to go down to take part in the Bowl with the Tigers event. So now I think it's either the second or third time that it's been run, with the premise of 4 or 5 kids on a lane and a member of the Hull City squad. This has got carnage potential written all over it. As a father of twins who have had a bowling birthday party one time, I say one time, it was always going to be loud. It was always going to be mental. Adding to the fact that roughly 60 kids were high as kites because they were just so excited for what was about to happen. To then find the players turned up nearly an hour after they were supposed to was a bit of a hairy start, shall we say? However, once the players arrived, they settled in pretty well, and everybody got on with it. It was great. So the players that they got was Finley Burns. They got João Pedro. They got Gustavo Puerta. Abu Kamara was there. And the big news, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you of a Hull City persuasion, we found him. He actually exists. Dogakan Cynic, who signed for the club all those years ago. And not only that, he managed to get through the entire afternoon/evening of bowling, no reported injury, and looked fairly comfortable with a ball near his feet. I can't say that about when he picked it up and threw it down the aisle, but yeah, bit of a strange one. It's a very strange choice of player to come, but yeah, he does exist. He is a real person. Then, so as the sort of games progressed, you might have worked out from that there was about 10 lanes of kids and only 5 players. So the players were across multiple lanes, which was hilarious. So João Pedro speaks a bit of English. Puerta, who my boys had on their lane, speaks very little English. There were some lovely photographs that have gone up on the Hull City Facebook page this very afternoon on the day of recording. There's a lovely picture of Finley Burns giving one young man a hug. There's a lovely picture of João Pedro and Abu Kamara on different photos giving different kids high fives for saying well done. There's also a picture of one of my boys saying to Gustavo Puerta, who clearly doesn't understand what he's trying to say to him, "Come on, mate, it's your go." Which tickled me probably more than anybody else that'll see it, but that's standard, really standard. After the bowling had finished, I should say actually as well, this was completely free. The club put it on for the kids as an event, and they also provided food for all the kids that were bowling as well whilst we was there. So that was really nice of them. Per lane, the child that got the highest score got a little trophy to take home. And every child that bowled also got given like a little medal with a memento of like bowl with the tigers on it to keep. So that was really nice. And then afterwards, there's like a bar area in the bowling alley, and all the kids got to go and meet the other players that they hadn't got to spend any time with on the bowling alley and say hello and have photographs and stuff. So overall, um, really decent. Like they don't have to do anything like this. Obviously, gets the kids engaged from a young age, because God knows in another sort of 20 years they'll be hopefully taking me rather than me taking them. So yeah, just a really nice event. Um, the last word has to go to the club mascot, Rory the Tiger, for stepping up to entertain the children whilst the players were late. Some of the younger children, particularly because they're all in age groups, were getting a little bit excited and they didn't want to wait to go bowling. Um, so Rory very kindly stepped in and offered to take the place of one of the players so that the youngest ones could get started. Um, I'm gonna break the fourth wall here. If you've ever seen a man in a tiger suit trying to bowl when his hand won't fit in the hole and he effectively has to use big furry flippers to try and throw a ball straight down a bowling alley, um, yeah, that was entertainment for the parents as well as the children. So, but good on Rory for stepping in to do it. And not to be left out as well, by the way, Rory did join the lineup for signing autographs at the end of the session as well. So, lad. But yeah,
More
that was it.
comfortable with a pen in his hand than a bowling ball, was he?
Easily. But yeah, it was a really nice evening, and yeah, massive thank you to the club for having us, and particularly as a dad of twins, letting them both go, because having to tell one of them that they weren't going would have been horrendous.
I did think when you said that they got their names like drawn out of the hat or whatever it was, I was like, oh my god, can you imagine if only one of them had been drawn out? Oh Christ almighty. But yes, very well done to Hull City for the in the community work they've done there. Very, very good. Very much stuff we like to hear. So that brings us to an end of another week. Slightly different this week for you, ladies and gentlemen. Hope it was not too painful. We should, in theory, be back to full complement from next week onwards. We'll see. But if not, I'm pretty sure we can keep the ship running straight and narrow for the prerequisite amount of time. We'll just have to wait and see. Thank you, as always, to Mr. Woodmansey for joining me to go through the details of the England games and do some predictions for the coming week. And thank you to you, the listeners and the watchers. If this is your first time here, obviously welcome on in. Thank you very much for joining us. Maybe think about having a little subscribe to the channel if you liked what you heard, like what you saw. It's not just a football podcast. We have the weekly NFL podcast that was running during the course of the season. Obviously, we're now into the off season, so no more NFL podcasts for the rest of the season, sadly. But that will start up again in September. If wrestling's your bag, which it certainly is for myself and Mr. Woodmansey, we have a monthly wrestling roundup show where we go through the details of the previous Premium Live event and look forward to the upcoming Premium Live event. And this one will be coming in the next couple of weeks. Oh, it's the biggie, ladies and gentlemen. It's WrestleMania season, so we'll be looking forward to that. There's also the Straight to the Apex podcast, the Formula One show that the boys over there do. Look forward to each race as it's coming up. I'm assuming they'll probably talk about the fact that Max Verstappen probably will win it all, as he seems to do every year. But he didn't win the first race of the season. I don't even know if he won the second race of the season. So could be a different season. And then, of course, the jewel in the crown is the leader of the Cookie Cast podcast network, Mr. Andrew Cook's Darkest Timeline podcast, where he goes through his week of shenanigans, the movies he's seen, the games he's played, the food he's definitely not eaten that week. The sheer amount of caffeine that he's put into his body is always quite interesting to know, as he very much runs on caffeine these days. There you go. Plenty for you to be getting on with on the network. Join us again next week where we'll go through those 4 games we predicted there, and we'll bring you the games for Middlesbrough, Hull and Nottingham Forest for the following week. Until then, thank you very much for listening. Take care of yourselves. Keep an eye out for each other. And we will see you next week. Tatty bye. for now.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Was it better? Was it better? That's the real question. Answers on a postcard. Or just jump over to the website, thecookiecast.com, and click that email button. Or grab us on social media. Before you leave us, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Obviously the big one, share that podcast around. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.